Hi there. Later, Hong Kong's pink dot goes online. First though, Slovakia is only going to recognise two sexes, male and female. A change to the constitution of the Central European country has narrowly been passed in Parliament. Also means adoption will be limited to married straight couples and surrogacy is banned. Slovakian activist Martin Hojsík's one of the vice presidents of the European Parliament and says the intention of this move is clear.
It's trying to take Slovakia out of EU and into, I would say, model of Belarus. So it's kind of a, not really democracy, but the country under strong influence of Putin and his regime.
Thanks to TVP World. Prime Minister Robert Fico says the change represents a great dam against progressivism, could lead to legal issues with the European Union and maybe even sanctions. The biggest LGBTQ+ event in Hong Kong, Pink.HK, is now taking place as an online concert. Follows its cancellation a couple of months ago after a venue couldn't be sorted. It's now happening on the interwebs on November 2nd, with performances from local acts including rapper Billy Choi and singer-songwriter Kath Wong. And turns out Terence Stamp filmed his scenes for the Priscilla Queen of the Desert sequel before his death in August. The 87-year-old boxed off his performances as transgender nightclub artist Bernadette ahead of the rest of the movie being made, which it hasn't yet. He'll be inserted into the finished production using CGI. The new film explores what it's like to be queer and get old. No time to tell you that. Fashion reality show Project Runway's crowned its first ever transgender winner. VJ Floresca gets $200,000, a mentorship with America's Council of Fashion Designers, and a spread in Elle magazine. Yeah, that's nice, but I'm actually on the cover of the latest issue of Middle-Aged Queens Quarterly. Hi there. Later, a groundbreaking queer film made in 1960s Canada. First though, gay adult film actor Austin Wolf's got 19 years in prison in America after admitting child sexual exploitation. The 44-year-old, whose real name's Justin Heath Smith, was targeting kids as young as 7 last year. Plus, nearly 1,300 files containing child pornography were found in his home in New York, some depicting the rape of minors. Jason Nunez from Queer News Tonight says this just serves to reinforce existing stigma.
About the LGBT community being predators, and then to have someone who has done LGBT-type videos and content just sets us back. Also, their behavior is just disgusting.
Wolf's also been sentenced to 10 years of supervised release and got a $40,000 fine. A law firm that accepted a transgender man as a client and then dropped him is paying damages. US-based Morrison Forster, also known as Mofo, was accused of reneging over concerns about blowback from the orange-convicted felon and sexual abuser who runs America. You know, Jeffrey Epstein's mate. The organisation, which doesn't admit liability, is stumping up £25,000, most of which will go to trans advocacy groups. And a low-budget queer film made in Canada in 1964, which is now seen as groundbreaking, has been given a screening in Toronto. Winter Kept Us Warm was made at the city's university back when being gay was illegal. It's a coming-of-age story about the friendship of two students and how the connection evolves. The movie, which has been restored, is subtle by necessity and inspired the director's classmate David Cronenberg, off of David Cronenberg, to get into films himself. No time to tell you that. This year's Dublin Pride runs raised more than €76,000 for Irish LGBTQ+ charities. And hundreds of people have showed up for Soweto Pride in South Africa. This year's theme was Key to Empowerment. Hi there. Later, the French football star clapping back against homophobes. First though, a right-wing anti-queer US politician who's accused trans people and drag queens of harming children has admitted distributing child pornography. The Republican Party's R.J. May exchanged 265 different files of toddlers and young kids involved in sex acts, faces 100 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and life on a register of sex offenders. Brian Sterling's the U.S. Attorney for South Carolina.
This heartbreaking case is not victimless. These files are shared over and over again. Agents found May distributed videos like this more than 470 times in 5 days. Every download re-victimizes these children and fuels this evil industry.
The lawmaker also pushed for bans on drag performances and on gender-affirming care. Anti-LGBTQ+ group Moms for Liberty named May as their Legislator of the Year for 2023. Next, a ruling in Japan. Trans people shouldn't have to change the appearance of their genitals if they want legal recognition of their gender identity. Sapporo's family court says it's unconstitutional to demand they're altered to resemble those of an individual's preferred sex. Japan's parliament's been debating gender recognition for 2 years, since judges ruled a sterilisation requirement also violated the constitution. And French football player Jonathan Klaus has been clapping back at his team's supporters for being homophobic bedwetters. A game between Nice and Paris FC's had to be halted twice because of closet cases overcompensating with their anti-gay chants. The defender gestured at fans to stop and reminded them about respect and fair play, which are foreign concepts to them, a bit like heterosexuality. No time to tell you that. America and Canada's LGBT History Month starts today. It's been a thing since 1994, the UK version's in February. Hi there, it's me again. Later, yet another reason to love Jonathan Bailey. First though, plans in Florida to rename some streets in honour of murdered anti-LGBTQ+ podcaster Charlie Kirk have been voted down. Residents in Escambia, Clearwater and Melbourne weren't having it because of the appalling things he said about queer and black people, amongst others. County government officials read the room during public meetings and ditched proposals for Charlie Kirk Way, Turning Point USA Road, his right-wing organisation, and Charlie Kirk Lane. Here's what Clearwater resident Patricia McDaniel thought.
To rename Court Street for him would suggest that Clearwater endorses a narrow vision of who belongs here. Christian, white, straight, and male-oriented. That is not who we are. Clearwater is a community of many faiths, races, orientations, and backgrounds. We should honor that diversity, not diminish it.
A road dedication has been voted through by right-wing officials in Florida's Lake County who ignored the views of local people. Next, as video games firm Electronic Arts is sold to a Saudi-led consortium, is their LGBTQ+ content at risk? EA's long had a very diverse portfolio with queer representation across titles like The Sims, Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Saudi Arabia's got the death penalty for homosexuality and gay men are flogged. The firm says its values remain unchanged. And Jonathan Bailey's supporting LGBTQ+ older people through his charity, the Shameless Fund. The gay actor, who I'm in love with, says a couple of organisations supporting queer elders have received 2 of the first 5 grants to be dished out. Reckons we have to look after them because they fought so hard, hoping I'm in line for a payment as I'm ruddy ancient now. No time to tell you that. South Australia's Parliament's marking today's 50th anniversary of the state's decriminalisation of homosexuality by reenacting lawmakers' speeches there from October 2nd, 1975. And nearly 60% of LGBTQ+ people in Ireland are now taking part in sport. That's a rise of 9% since 2021, according to Sport Ireland. Hi there. Later, Lahore Vagistan hits Harvard University. First though, anti-cancel culture, free speech warrior Elon Musk, the world's worst advert for plastic surgery and humanity, is pushing a Netflix boycott over transgender representation. All to do with a trans character in a 3-year-old cartoon series called Dead End Paranormal Park, which he's only just heard about, finger on the pulse. His online campaign against the shows led to its creator getting homophobic and anti-Semitic abuse. And when you hear this abomination, I'm sure you'll agree something must be done forthwith.
I'm trans, Norma. And everyone at school knows, and everyone at home knows. And being here, it's like a whole new place. I can just be Barney, and I can choose if and when I tell people. I've never been happier. And that's saying something when I spent today chased by terrifying zombie mascots.
Musk, who's got a transgender daughter he's disowned, lovely guy, reckons people should cancel Netflix for the health of their kids. The voice actor for trans character Barney says he's been told by children and parents the show has saved lives. Young transgender students are eating and drinking less so they can avoid school bathrooms. So says Scotland's biggest teaching union, which claims pupils are worried about being outed by new rules, making them use the toilets corresponding with their biological sex. The country's educational institute wants government guidance on what to do now to protect the health, safety and well-being of trans students. And a drag queen called Lahore Vajistan, Lahore with a W, has been hired by America's Harvard University as a visiting professor. The performer's part of a Studies of Gender and Sexuality course, and one of her lectures is Rue Politics, Drag, Race and Desire, worth it for the pun alone. Her alter ego, Kareem Kubchandani, is an associate professor of theatre, dance and performance at the nearby Tufts Uni. No time to tell you that London's GAY bar will close for good this weekend after 23 years. And it's the 14th Pretoria Pride tomorrow in South Africa. This year's theme is Uniting the Rainbow. Get in touch on our socials. We're at Pride Daily Pod. I'm Kev McGrath. See you next week.